HR, the Recruiter Report. Thanks so much for joining. Today, we're going to talk through all phases of an interview to offer and getting you inside the mind of what the hiring team, recruiters, and HR are really looking for. So I'm going to give you some of the BTS around what are the conversations that are happening on the back end, and then even some hacks about how you show up and show out in an interview and offers phases. So in most job searches, there is going to be the phase of initial phone screen or phone interview that typically will take place with either HR or the recruiter. The phone screen is your first lens into some of the culture of the organization as highlighted by the recruiter or HR representative. What you're getting a lens of is an overview of the position, some understanding around the culture, and getting some type of read there. I've had a lot of these calls. People sometimes take this as a formality, an administrative hurdle, something they have to do. But pro tip, this phase is really about gut checking whether or not this is going to be a culture fit, what your communication style is, that you are technically aligned for the position, and that it makes sense to further have a conversation. So at this point, what probably has happened is the recruiter has started to look at applications as well as the hiring leader, and they probably shortlisted your resume and are thinking about considering moving you formally into the process. So in this call or discussion, this is your chance to really sell yourself in terms of experience. Typically after the call, the hiring manager is asking the recruiter, like, how did that call go? What did you think of this person? And so you leaning in and making a good impression with HR or the recruiter, this is the time to do that. It's not just a formality. A lot of hiring managers value what recruiters have to say and their opinions about the person, and they know that they're aware of the culture. So really, this is a chance to feel things out, gut check. And for you as a candidate, it's really a chance for you to understand whether or not this is going to be a culture fit or the kind of job function you're wanting to get into. So that is our hiring screen, phone screen, recruiter screen part of the process. The next phase of an interview is typically a phone interview or some type of touch point, whether it be a Teams, a phone interview with the hiring leader. This phase will be all about diving a layer deeper in terms of your technical and or functional background. The hiring manager is looking to evaluate your capability to communicate concisely and to get an initial read on the chemistry between you and your. And the other thing that they're trying to listen and make sense of is your communication skills. Are you talking concisely and clearly about your experience? Are you a chatterbox? Does it take a minute to get to the point? They're filling you out in terms of their chemistry between you. They're probably going to be your manager. Do they want to work with you? Can they see themselves working with you? So the recruiter was testing out like the company culture fit, and now the hiring manager is trying to get a chemistry read on you. Do they see themselves working with you? So those are in reference to how you can make a good impression there. It's being yourself, that you're trying to get a chemistry read between you and the hiring leader. Only some things you can do is make sure you're familiar with the position, that you've reviewed the job description and it makes sense. You're leaning in and highlighting the particular types of experience that you've had that relate to the position, highlighting very specific examples, giving short anecdotes about that experience. And again, this isn't the time to talk about all of their experiences, childhood. It's really leaning in and making sense of your relevant and recent experience with a hiring manager. And it's kind of that teaser that they're looking to assess. Is it worth continuing the process with this person? Can the person do the job? And do I see them fitting into our company or culture or department here? The next phase is the actual on-site interview. This is, I would call it like the closing, right? Typically, in this phase, you're going to meet with the hiring manager in person and other key cross functional partners or teammates. This part, the closing, is all about chemistry. How does your energy read in person? What they're looking for is your culture fit. You're now there physically in person. Does what you said on the phone or said in that Teams jive with what you're presenting yourself to be in person? What is it like to be sitting in a room with you? What is your vibe? What is your chemistry, your energy like? They're trying to get some sense of that. Then you're meeting with maybe multiple people. Are they all having the same experience? Trust and believe they're comparing notes and seeing if they're all having the same experience. Did you answer questions similarly? Does it make sense what you're saying? How are you communicating in person? What is your energy like? So, how do you hack this phase? There's a couple things you can do. Dress the part. My call out is you can never overdress for a on-site interview, that you want to dress for the level of respect you want to receive. So for my ladies, this is definitely a blazer or a nice blouse, a skirt or dress. Never anything too form-fitting or revealing, just something that looks streamlined. You're well kept, no stains, steam it, iron it out, that you're making your best first impression. For my gentlemen, this is definitely the time to pull out that blazer, nice pair of slacks, and a button up. I think a tie in this day and age is at your preference, kind of understanding the dress code that you could get from your recruiter if you ask, in terms of what would be appropriate. Again, my take is you can never be too formal for an interview, and that you're dressing for the level of respect you want. In reference to the on site interview, what's happening is they're trying to really picture, could they see you at that organization? If this is hoodies and jeans kind of environment, are you, from the way you present yourself, too formal? Could they not see you in a jeans and a hoodie as the water cooler? Other things they're feeling out is you might get along with the higher leader, but how do you jive and how do you treat the administrative or support staff? Are you kind and polite to the receptionist when you walk in? Um, are you positive from an energy perspective? While your previous positions might not be working out or things might not have gone well at other companies, it is never the time and never appropriate to bad talk, shame, or trash talk your previous employer or colleagues or manager. Instead, you should be talking about why you're excited about this particular role, how you're seeing this fit into your career path, what value you're going to bring to the current position at hand. You are not downplaying or trash talking anyone from your previous experience, but instead selling how this particular position would be the perfect match. Other things you can do is just common courtesy, holding doors, thank you, please. These things go a long way. And a great attitude, positive energy, these all things become contagious. If you're excited and you're pumped about that interview, then the hiring team is going to be pumped about you too. If you're negative and toxic, you're going to get a couple hiring teams side eyes. Why are we here? That also becomes contagious toxicity, right? In terms of how you can make a positive impression in the on-site interview, it's again understanding the culture that you're walking into and being able to demonstrate your fit for that particular culture. Is it more of an entrepreneurial spirit? Is it super formal and maybe more traditional environment? Is it maybe more modern and hip, millennial, Gen Z kind of vibes? So really understanding the culture that you're walking into and being able to express and demonstrate how you're going to fit in. The last phase, and typically most job processes, is going to be the offer. This is a discussion. What that offer is typically going to come from either HR, recruiter, or the hiring leader themselves. In that discussion, yes, congratulating yourself and celebrating at this time are appropriate. You've got the deal done for the company, and now it's time to close the deal for yourself. You're still interviewing, and now is the time to close the deal advocating. The appropriate response always is, "Thank you so much. I'm glad we got to this phase. I would love to take the time to review the numbers and make sense of all the components of the offer and get back to you." A fair and reasonable time is about a calendar week. You know which way you're leaning in terms of that offer, and you have 3 options. Check out my other video, decline, accept, decline, or counter. These 3 things are all available to you. Again, it's accept, counter, or decline. You know which way you're leaning within a week's time. It is considered rude to drag out the process any longer, and hiring teams generally get the sentiment that either you're not interested or you're stringing them along. Fair conversations is if you're going to counter, that you come with some data points to back it up, but you're asking for particular counter terms or items, whether that be additional salary, additional days off. I don't need to go into it all because you're going to check out my other posts about accepting, declining, and countering offers and what that process looks like. Again, at the offer phase, what's really trying to be tested and understood is your verbal communication skills, your ability to negotiate, have difficult and direct conversations, to be thoughtful and gracious in your interactions. So people are listening for all of those cues. A very awkward situation I got into is previously I was negotiating an offer with a candidate, and the person not only took forever in reference to making a decision, they had a lot of unreasonable requests, and they weren't able to back it up with any kind of why besides they felt like it. What it demonstrated to me and what I went back and told the hiring team was like, this person is unreasonable. They would be in a position where they'd be negotiating on a pretty consistent basis, and they couldn't even negotiate on their own behalf. How dreadful. So again, the idea behind the offer phase is you're still being interviewed. People are still considering, are you a culture, personality, functional match, and still being able to test your professional acumen. So the idea is to be gracious, direct, provide the data, and again, make it a discussion. You're not making any demands. It's not a hostage situation. You're just trying to advocate for yourself and make sure the company understands your value. Again, one of my biggest tips across all phases of the interview is use your recruiter. Your recruiter will be your agent or advocate in reference to giving you some of the inside tips around the interview process, how the hiring manager is thinking about the role, some of the culture cues that you might want to lean into. And they're really there to be a guide, a support system for you. So if you didn't hear me the first time, use your recruiter, because they'll be an invaluable resource to you throughout the process. When you're on that phone screen, it's typically going to take place with the recruiter, and you can really talk about how and where or if you're aligned. On the hiring manager interview, they're going to give you some prep tips in terms of how to be prepared for that conversation and things that the hiring manager is looking for. At the on-site interview, they're going to typically be escorting you around, making you familiar with the campus, make sure you have what you need for the day. And at the offer phase, they're typically going to be involved in educating the hiring team about your needs and desires in terms of compensation, your timeline to start, and all of the logistics around your offer. So make them your partner in terms of this process, and keep in mind that everyone along the phase wants you to do well, that this will help them fill a position, address a pain point, provide value, and lead to the greater mission. So make your first impression your best impression. These are the things that people are looking for when you're interviewing. It's been the recruiter report submission. It has been my pleasure to give you a little BTS on what hiring teams are looking for. If there is more that we can talk through, please drop down in the comments. Let's like, subscribe, and keep the conversation